I did a video a while back called Build Your Confidence with Watercolours by Losing Your Fear of Failure, and I had an interesting comment from Kitchen Carvings who explains their experiences of anxiety when they're painting. They say, I just started watercolour painting after many years. I used to do it a lot from 12 to 18 years of age. I started again about 12 years ago, but only worked at it for a few months and actually did some paintings that I was really happy with. Now I'm starting again, and it's ridiculous the amount of anxiety I feel when I sit down to paint. I mean, it's just coloured water and paper, they say. It shouldn't make me sweat so much. Of course, it's my expectations that are causing the anxiety. I think this is a common problem with many, really. I think we just expect too much when we sit down at the easel, and we just want to create a masterpiece every single time. It simply isn't going to happen. Not even the professionals can turn it on. Whatever it is, whether it's music, sports, anything, you can't just turn it on all the time. You've got to expect ups and downs. But eventually, with practice, generally, you will slowly get better and better. You won't always notice it, but you are getting better and better with practice. And I continue. But I find that I don't feel so scared if I paint really small paintings. I cut two templates out of cardstock, 4x4 and 4x6 inches. I lay out 5 or 6 squares or rectangles on one sheet of paper and draw the same scene in each. Then I start on one, and if I make a mistake, I fix it in the next painting. They say, oops, I forgot how much colour lightens when it dries. In the next square I paint it darker. Oops, I didn't let the paper dry enough before I started my mount and let it bleed into the sky. Again, just fix it in the next square. By the time I reach the last square, my painting looks much better and I feel good. I've learnt a lot, not spent hours and hours, and not used up lots of expensive paper. Now, this is something I've mentioned lots of times in the past. I wouldn't recommend using expensive gear when you first start painting or you're learning. It will cause anxiety because naturally you're worried about wasting paper and equipment. It's a lot better. Just use anything, even newspaper, just anything, just to practice your brush strokes and get used to the way the paint goes onto the paper and the way everything mixes and you're mixing colours in your palette and all the rest of it. Of course, there is a balance, because if you use the really cheap rubbish, then it does make it difficult. What I would recommend is getting a decent brush. I think paints and paper, you can get away with using cheap stuff, but I would recommend just buy a decent brush, because that will really help you right from the beginning. I've seen some little cheap brushes in the shops, and they're rubbish, and you will struggle. But they continue. I can try different techniques and see the results side by side, and yeah, I mean, that's a great way of doing it. If you can imagine a piece of paper, I use 15 by 11 inches. Imagine that's divided up into 6 little paintings, and you start in the top left and work your way along. Just do the same scene and just keep improving it as you're going along all the way, and by the time you get to the end you will have learnt so much. They say it also helps me simplify and loosen up. You just aren't going into great detail in a painting that small, which is right. Which is one of the reasons, if you do go bigger, of course, it's obviously with the little paintings, you're using little brushes. Now you can get the similar sort of principle if you go bigger. Just use bigger brushes, and the scale is effectively the same. So it's always use the biggest brush you can get away with, really, and it will stop you going into all that fiddling and fussing and frustration. They continue. It helps me find the essential shapes and keeps me from overworking the painting, which has always been a problem. Overworking. Yeah, it is difficult at times to know when to stop, but it will come with experience. But that comment, it's another example of how art does help people relax, but it also can be a cause of frustration when things don't go well. But just stick with it. Keep practicing. Don't worry about making the mistakes. They're inevitable. We all make them. Just keep with it, stick with it, and you will start to have some sort of success. Don't expect too much. Just enjoy it, and I'll catch you again soon.